Good evening, folks, and welcome to the November 6, 2014 regularly scheduled meeting of the Buncombe County School Board. I'd like to call this meeting to order. First, if you would all please stand, we're going to have the presentation of the colors by the North Buncombe High School Junior ROTC program.
Forward, march. Colors, hold. Rifles, order, arms. Ready, cut. Left, face. Present, colors.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Colors. Ready, strip. Ready, cut. Right, face. Forward, march. Adjust, flags.
If you'd please remain standing and bow your heads for a moment of silence, please. Thank you, and please be seated. If you are here tonight and you would like to make public comment, which will be a little bit later on in our program, if you will come down, we have a sign-up sheet. We'd like to have a record of your public comment, so feel free to come down anytime and do that. First of all, we would like to approve the agenda. A couple things that we'd like to move from the consent agenda to the action agenda are the open session minutes from October the 2nd, 2014, the Inca Intermediate School revision to the CMAR contract, the Inca Intermediate School adoption of the project-specific criteria for school subcontractors, and award of the contract for the wireless access point installation system-wide. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. All right. So with that, Dr. Baldwin.
Good evening, everyone. I want to begin by recognizing 4 of our schools that were recently awarded by the state of North Carolina exemplar status. And that is for their PBIS, or our Positive Behavior Intervention Support. Those programs were deemed to be of excellence. So congratulations to Estes Elementary, to Valley Springs Middle, to Inca Middle, and to Reynolds Middle. Actually, 18 of our schools in the Buncombe County school system received recognition for the success of their PBIS programs. Exemplar status for these 4 schools, that's actually the highest award that can be given to a school in the state of North Carolina. So we're extremely proud of that. And we strongly believe that as we continue to especially implement these PBIS programs into the high schools, that we will not only see more positive student outcomes, we will see reduced incidence of discipline. So we're very proud for those schools, all 18 of them. Also very proud to recognize 8 of our elementary schools. We recently had an audit that was done for our Title I programs. We'll be presenting the results of that audit, and I think we're going to be very proud of those to the board over the next couple of months. These 8 elementary schools receive statewide designation as a Title I reward school. A total of only 70 schools across the state of North Carolina receive this recognition. So we're very proud to say that Buncombe County, we have 8 of those schools. Congratulations to Black Mountain Primary, to Black Mountain Elementary School, to Avery's Creek, to Weaverville Elementary School. I see our former principal for Weaverville Elementary here. Hall Creek Elementary School, STs, and North Buncombe Elementary. And special recognition for Pisgah Elementary School. They were nominated, or have been nominated, to actually represent the state of North Carolina in national competition. And in order to do that, they must be deemed to have the highest of student performances when compared to Title I programs across the state. So just congratulations over and above for Pisgah Elementary. Professional development, that was one of the first areas that actually received some very strong budget restrictions early on, but it continues to be a very important component of continuing the tradition of instructional excellence that we have in the school system. And last week I had the pleasure to actually visit 14 of our campuses, and I observed just some outstanding professional development. I know our curriculum instruction department was very heavily involved in those. We saw professional learning communities. They are now, I think, have become a core of the culture in all of our schools. We saw some wonderful staff development going on there, especially Ms. Roney and T.C. Robertson. I had a chance to observe that work session. Balanced literacy, common instructional framework, and I think Mr. Pace would be very pleased to have seen the technology integration that was going on in those work sessions. So a lot of good things going out having to do with our professional development in our schools. This is also the year for school improvement plans to be revisited, reviewed, revised, and that is a very important process to ensure the success of the school and the progress of the school. And we've had several of, I think, our elementary schools especially that have come in and done actual presentations to our curriculum instruction department. So every one of those, I understand, has just been outstanding. So a lot of work going on out in our schools with school improvement. The early snowfall last weekend, well, that sort of kicked in a reminder that it is time, believe it or not, for us to check our inclement weather plans. Not that we want to this early, but I think that is a sign. And so on an upcoming employee newsletter, we will be providing a primer for all of our staff and employees regarding school closures and delays and what that process, how the communication works. And in turn, we'll also be providing a very similar primer for all of our parents and students. Dr. Porter and his staff, they will continue to set up the process to communicate those decisions through our auto call system, as well as our district Facebook page. And I think we're probably having just as many hits as the calls going out now, Dr. Porter, from what I understand. And we also have a pretty active Twitter account, thanks to Chris. So all of those vehicles will be used to help us with communicate those decisions. Does anyone on the board know the one mandatory holiday that school systems across this state must observe?
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, which is?
Veterans Day.
They must have read my notes. I can't believe that. It is Veterans Day, and it is next Tuesday. And a number of our programs, because that will be a holiday, a number of programs will take place tomorrow and Monday out in our schools to recognize veterans. And you know what, I think it might be appropriate tonight, if we have any veterans here in the audience, I'm going to ask you to stand. And if we have any active military personnel, please stand at this time. Let's recognize them. I want to make everyone aware of a district-wide survey that we will be distributing, actually launching through our district website beginning November 10th, and we'll actually extend that through November 24th. And this particular survey will gauge parent and stakeholder interest in specific programs and components of what many of us have seen in school design choice. One example will be the concept of year-round school. I think Mrs. Churchill actually brought that suggestion up, and so that will be, Ms. Churchill, part of this survey that will go out. And so we really do encourage, and we'll be working hard out in our schools. They will also have this survey on their school websites. We're going to encourage our parents and stakeholders to please give us feedback on this survey as we look toward the future of Buncombe County schools. In closing, school grades will be released across North Carolina. This will be the first year that program will be put in place, and they'll be released on February 15th. So I just want to make the board aware that I've asked our curriculum instruction department to work with our high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools to identify key staff out there that can come in. And what we'd like to do is a panel similar to what we put together when we brought the Common Core work session to this board. I heard a lot of nice compliments about that. So you hear from those actually directly in the classrooms, and we're going to be focusing on school performance indicators as well as the testing components. And they will look different for elementary, middle, as far as those grades go, versus the high school. So we'll make sure we have as much as possible a clear clarification between the two for the board. And that concludes my comments.
All right.
Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Baldwin. Dr. Porter, we have some employees to recognize tonight.
Yes, we do, Chairman Reinhardt. Okay, I have to say, first of all, board members, the feedback that we got with Chairman Reinhardt and his talk show stick last time, introducing the employees, was well received. And I want you to know we have you one final time to do it, so
Okay, all right.
it's going to be fun. We will be.
Where's my microphone?
We have a microphone. Mr. Cromie will be delivering that.
Microphone.
We have to start with the basics, yes. So we will begin this evening with recognition of a 20-year employee from Charles D. Owen Middle School, Ms. Robin Schuster. Please come down. And if you would send over the
Congratulations. Tell us a little bit about your career with Buncombe County Schools.
Well, I came here from New Orleans, and before that, Texas. This is my 34th year teaching, but I spent 20 of those right here.
Right here in Buncombe County.
Yep.
And where all of you taught?
In Houston
I mean
and New
in
Orleans.
Buncombe County, which schools have you?
Owen.
I'm sorry, all at Owen. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Hold on one second. I've got.
It's the best middle school.
Thank you. We have a pen for you, and we also have a certificate, and you get to have your picture made with me. So isn't that exciting?
Can't beat that.
Right here.
Thank you.
Right here. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Veronica Williams, a 6th grade English teacher at A.C. Reynolds Middle School.
I can talk.
Okay, good. Tell us a little bit about
What do you
yourself.
want to know?
Just tell us everything.
I came from Ohio about 31 years ago, met my husband, who was homegrown, and started out at Glenarden, and then went to Oakley Elementary, and then they moved us in 91 to A.C. Reynolds Middle School, which is the best middle school in the county. And so I've been there ever since. I did not want to move.
Well, thank you very much for your service. Congratulations.
Chairman Reinhardt, with 30 years of service, our assistant superintendent, who asked not to be recognized tonight, and I said no chance, Dr. Robbie Adele.
I also asked not to be recognized, so you're not getting off the hook either. So tell us about your career with. Well, have you been in Buncombe County Schools for 30 years?
I have not.
Okay.
I've been with Buncombe County for 24. I spent 4 years at Asheville Middle and 2 years at Hendersonville High School, but 24 years have been in Buncombe. And 13 years at Reynolds Middle as a teacher, 8 years at Reynolds Middle as a principal, and then the rest of the time has been here. So Reynolds Middle is the best.
Chairman Reinhardt, you could stay where you are with a special recognition that you will be a part of. I asked Vice Chairman Chip to come up, and also Dr. Baldwin, please.
I'd like to recognize Bob Reinhardt. As you know, this is his last evening of leading us, and we appreciate what you've done. Bob's been on the board for 8 years representing the Inca District, and for the past 3 years, he has been our chair. And his leadership style, I would say, is very calm, very open, casual, and I very much appreciate what he's done and his leadership he's provided. At this point, I'd like to, on behalf of the board, present Bob with a plaque. And it says, presented to Robert Bob Reinhardt, Chairman 2011 through 2014, in recognition and appreciation of your outstanding leadership and exemplary service to Buncombe County Schools, December 2006 through December 2014, Buncombe County Board of Education, November 6, 2014.
Bob, we're going to make this painful for you, so just hang in there. I'll tell you the most important thing that needs to be done is I need to recognize the head of the Reinhardt household. And Leslie, you don't have to stand up, but please raise your hand and thank you so much for... place.
You sneak in. You see her come in.
As a surprise. Bob, it's been an honor, Superintendent, to sit beside you. And you may not know this, we had Connie go back and count the number of actual sessions. There were 110 of those. It's hard to believe, 110 sessions with Bob Reinhardt as our board chair. And on a personal note, I've got to thank you for one thing in particular, and that is not breaking the gavel. Some of you in here know that several years ago I almost lost my nose to a flying gavel that went in the... And by the way, you've shown remarkable patience in not doing so, Bob, so thank you on several occasions. And seriously, on behalf of our students and our staff, you are truly a model of strong leadership. Bob, you will always be remembered for just a well-rounded knowledge of our school system. I mean, it goes from facilities to curriculum to budget. And Bob, if you work with Bob, he is never shy of asking questions, but he asks them in a very appropriate way. And he asks them, again, it's just a model of being the perfect student. Even though he didn't show up at Carolina, he went to Wake, so I guess he learned something at Wake Forest. But that is such an incredible skill, and it's been well versed here in your role. While speaking to students and staff, to parents across this school system about Bob Reinhardt, there's one common thread that we continue to hear, and that's we had this discussion with leadership team in central office, and Bob's had this incredible ability to walk in a room, and Bob can connect, he can collaborate, he can communicate with such a strong diversity of people in the room, and that's an incredible gift. And I don't know of a more valuable gift for a chairman to have in leading certainly a school board. But as superintendent, I want to really focus in on something from Tony Baldwin that I've seen in Bob Reinhardt, and I so appreciate. Bob, I represent 4 generations of students in Buncombe County School. Both my parents are graduates. I'm a graduate. I've got 4 wonderful sons and daughters that were graduates, and now I've got a great little grandson that's at an elementary school. So from the heart, you know, we've talked about this several times. In the old boardroom, when you walk in there and you look up on the wall, it says in the best interest of students. You know what, Bob Reinhardt, I've never walked in a meeting with any agenda other than in the best interest of students. There was never a political agenda on your part. There was never a self-serving agenda on your part, Bob. It was always what is in the best interest of our students, and we all are so grateful for that. So from the heart, thank you, Bob. I think it's very appropriate. Board members, many of you have been in the saddle with Bob since the first day. If you would like to make some comments, feel free to do so. Mr. Bryant, start with you on this end. If you,
I'm not sure I can add anything other than I remember the first time I met you, Fats Cafe. And neither one of us were elected then. We were both running, and somebody had set up the meeting, and I remember thinking, I wonder who this bald guy is that I've just met. He looks like a former, Bill, you'll appreciate this, he looks like a former wrestler. And I didn't know what to think, and we had a nice lunch. There were several of us there, and over 8 years, you and I have done a lot of things that didn't involve this board. And I think the great thing I take away and that I value, and I think the school system should value as well, is that you're a friend, you're a personal friend to me. You're my friend. From 8 years ago when I didn't know you, we've been through a lot of things with this board, but a lot of things outside of this board, ball games, and you tricked my wife at the UNC Asheville Wake Forest baseball game this past year. He's always trying to get me, or I try to get him one way or the other. And we've just had a lot of fun, and I just appreciate your willingness to be my friend, because I think when we go through life, if we've got 8 or 10 people we can count on our hands as truly friends, we're lucky. And I consider you a friend now, and I appreciate all your service.
Bob, I just want to say that you lead by example, and your generosity has benefited the students of Buncombe County, and not only the students here, but students in other parts of the world even. And you know, it never seems to be about you, but I always see you when you talk about things that, you know, places you go and all the things that you do to help all school children, you know, whether it's here or in Honduras. You just light up. You have an infectious smile, and I'm just so appreciative of everything that you've done, and appreciative that you're willing to step out of our area and share that with other countries. So appreciate it very much, and I know you're going to look forward to having even more time to.
My turn? I remember 8 years ago, Jim Edmonds was still on the board, and we were sitting in session like we are now before the session started, and somebody said, "There's the guy in the very back of the room running for school board." And I looked back there and I said, "That Kojak looking fella?" They said, "Yeah." Anyway, Bob's not only been a colleague to me, but now I'm like everybody else. I consider him my friend. And Judy and I certainly consider he and Leslie our friend, and of course I appreciate your leadership, and I want to, you know, down the road I want to stay in touch. So
Thank you, Dusty.
yeah.
He'll take you to Honduras. First and foremost, Bob, I appreciate your friendship. When I first came on this board, I sat down, and I always take my shoes off. I do have mine on today. And Bob was sitting right beside me, and they called all the board members to the front. I didn't have my shoes on. And so Bob's pulling my chair out. Here I am barefooted trying to go, and he kept saying, come on, come on, let's go. I appreciate your dedication to honesty. I appreciate the ethical methods that you've used in addressing the issues, and I respect you and the respect that you've shown all of us on this board. You've guided this board and Buncombe County Schools through some mighty difficult times. And I appreciate that. I especially appreciate the recognition that you've given me on occasion, Bob, to allow me to speak during this board meeting.
You're welcome, Ann.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that since I started attending board meetings in 2008, then I used to call Bob on the phone and talk to him about some of the issues, and I talked to him about running for school board, and he kindly shared his wisdom with me about running a campaign. And since then, and when I was elected in 2010, we've shared concerns with some of the same issues, and I'm very proud that those things have come to pass as far as getting the string orchestra program in all of our middle and high schools, as well as the wonderful religion policy we were able to pass as well. So those were two outstanding things, I think, that have happened in recent years.
Thank you. I'll make some comments in a few minutes, but first of all, I'd like to give my wife a 1-minute rebuttal so that she can set everybody straight. If I could just have a point of privilege for a minute, I'd like to give Ms. Baldwin, who has served 4 years on this board, I'd like to give her the opportunity to kind of share some parting comments with the audience and the board. Ms. Baldwin, if you'd like to do that.
Thank you, Bob. As I leave my position on the board, I plan to remain an advocate for students, parents, teachers, and taxpayers. Over the past 4 years, much has been accomplished. For example, the public comment period was moved from the end of the meeting to the beginning, so the board could hear citizen concerns before voting on issues. Parents can now apply to serve on school advisory councils. Parents also have a grievance process, enabling them to bring unresolved issues before the board. We've instituted district advisory councils for the gifted as well as special needs parents. The AIG Parent Council was able to influence the 3-year gifted plan and accelerate math and language arts for those in middle school. A PAGE chapter was formed to advance gifted education in our schools. The school calendar is now more family-friendly. Families expressed challenges surrounding midweek teacher workdays, and parents were heard, and workdays are now adjacent to weekends. School is starting later in August, allowing teachers time to get classrooms and lessons ready. The calendar committee meetings are also now open to the public. School board meetings are now broadcast, allowing those who cannot attend to view meetings. More financial documents and contracts are available online, further increasing transparency, and more than a dozen financial controls were put in place to ensure tax dollars are spent appropriately. Contractors are not paid until the work is inspected. Fire code violations have been corrected, and 16 contractors were disciplined by their respective licensing boards for not getting permits and inspections for electrical and construction work. RFPs are now posted online. Costly and unnecessary studies have been curtailed following the 3-phase study for renovations to Inca High School, which cost taxpayers in excess of $100,000. We now have a recruitment policy to hire the most highly qualified educators to help prevent nepotism, and a whistleblower policy to protect those employees with special insights and concerns. All of our high schools and middle schools now offer the string orchestra program. The junk food sales have been removed from our cafeterias. No-bid contracts, such as the Inca Intermediate School Construction Manager at Risk, as well as other legal but questionable bidding practices, have been exposed. I will continue to press the board towards performing its state-mandated oversight function, but from a different seat. As an engaged citizen, I will study and research board actions to ensure decisions are made in the best interest of Buncombe students. Look for my monthly column, The School Board Watch, in the Asheville Tribune. I will continue my e-newsletter and social media postings with a radio program in the works. Thank you.
I will say that in 8 years, we've seen quite a few things happen in our school system. First of all, I would like to say that I'm very proud of the school system. I'm very proud that my kids attended school. I still have a son in high school, a daughter that's moved on to UNC Charlotte. Very proud that we have a high-flying, functional, more than functional school system that does it at a well below the state and the national average as far as dollars spent per student. Dr. Baldwin and his staff are second to none in North Carolina and the United States. I really appreciate all of his hard work, and Suzanne Swanger and everyone else in the administration, all of our principals, all of our teachers. We have a good system, and hopefully my grandkids one of these days will go to the school system also. I'd like to thank my wife for talking me down after the first Thursday night of every month. And she told me if I ran for public office again, I'd probably have a new wife. So I appreciate her, and I appreciate my kids and the time that I did spend away from them to do this. I think I learned a lot. I came into this, kept a very open mind. Really didn't know anything. Didn't realize how little I knew about schoolwork. So I tried to learn as best I could. We have a lot of folks around the state that are good to help us out and give us information, and we really appreciate that. When I came on in 2006, Pat and I did come on at the same time. We had Richard and Bob and Wendell kind of helped show us the ropes and helped us. And Dusty was on. I think that's everybody that was on the board at that time. But I appreciate everyone working with us and showing us the way. I really appreciate all of the board members that have come on. I do consider you each my friends, and if you're ever on the side of the road with a flat tire, you can call me. I'll be more than happy to help you. But I'd like to thank Miss Connie. I got to have somebody to keep me straight, no matter if it's at my business, at home, or here. And Miss Connie always kept me straight and made sure that I did everything I was supposed to. And Miss Connie, I want you to know how much I appreciate that. So, thank you for 8 wonderful years. I feel good knowing that the new board members that are coming on and the future board that will be seated on December 1st will do a good job. Very proud to have Max Queen representing the Inca District. I've known Max for a long time. We've gone to church together for a long time, and I know he'll do a good job. Cindy, good luck to you. Just jump in there and learn all you can. It's kind of a steep curve when you get thrown in there to begin with, but you got some other good board members to fall on to help you out. So thank you, folks. Appreciate you being here. Thank you to the school system, and again, thank you, Dr. Baldwin, for your leadership.
Thank you, Chairman Reinhardt. We now have a special presentation from Eblen Charities, and with that, we welcome Mr. Bill Murdoch.
This is an awful hard act to follow after all this. But again, congratulations. Certainly, Bob, long-time friend, not only to everyone here, but certainly Evelyn Charities and all we serve. So congratulations. And all of you that have been honored tonight, it made me think, on October 26, 1963, President John F. Kennedy, just less than a month before he was assassinated, was speaking at Amherst College at a dedication. And he had said that a country is known not only by the men and women it produces, but also by the men and women it honors. And I think the same goes for a community, and I think the same certainly goes for a school system that honors the teachers and the staff and faculty that have been working so hard, as well as those in leadership positions. So we have another opportunity to honor someone here tonight. As you know, Evelyn Charities was founded by Joe Eblin, and I was very fortunate to be alongside him when all of that happened. And on Joe's 80th birthday, which was in 2005, we created the Eblin Center for Social Enterprise, which takes other ideas, other partnerships, and maybe not be direct assistance, but things that will benefit our community. And our two flagship programs and the very first program was a graduation initiative with Dr. Baldwin, and we had a chance to work together. And Suzanne, I know we worked together early on, and what tremendous success that program has had, and certainly has the eyes of the nation working on that. And the other flagship program was the Andrew Institute for Leadership and Public Service. And thanks to Dewey Andrew, a longtime friend of all of ours, and certainly of Joe's, back to the days of officiating. Every time somebody came up, Joe said, Dewey would say, "I know that guy, he played basketball for Reynolds." But I don't think we've had a better leader, a better friend, a better businessman, a better community person than Dewey Andrew. And through his kindness in developing the Andrew Institute for Leadership and Public Service, part of that was the Andrew Institute Young Leader Award. And I'm going to ask Dewey to come up here to present that. And the young lady, first of all, who is getting it is, first of all, it's our second year, so she's the first young lady to win it, and she's the first Buncombe County student to win it. So, and Dr. Baldwin and board, I just want to say that if this young lady is any way a representative of the kind of student that Buncombe County Schools puts out, I think the future of Buncombe County and the future of the country is in very, very good hands. Dewey?
Okay, I think this is on. It's an honor for me to be here this evening and present this award to Michaela Bissinger. Michaela, if you'd come down. As Bill said, this is the first year that we've had a winner in Buncombe County. And this young lady is already a leader, a great leader. She's an international leader, in fact, in the fact that she, last year, after attending our leadership program, she started a program called Smiles for Nicaragua, where she collected toothbrushes, toothpaste, and other dental products that she could send to Nicaragua for people who don't have those things. So she's already a leader. She's also the president of the Reynolds High School student body. So as you see, this young lady is excellent in the community, in leadership, and we're very proud to present this award to you tonight. This is a $500 check. And the award from the Andrew Institute. And thank you very much, and we're all very proud of you.
Thank you so much.
Definitely so appreciative to the Evelyn Charities, and I'm very honored to be receiving this award tonight. I was able to attend the Evelyn LeaderCast event last year as a junior and was amazed at how impacted I was by the leadership values that they instilled in the students that attended. I was encouraged to start my own service project called Sending Smiles to Nicaragua, and I'm so looking forward to seeing the impact that it will make this year as well as it did last year. So thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Ms. Swanger?
Chairman Reinhardt, your last curriculum feature. As Dr. Baldwin mentioned, good evening. As Dr. Baldwin mentioned, we have been reviewing school improvement plans and hearing school improvement plan presentations, so we are really proud of the work our schools are doing. Tonight we're going to share 2 school stories with you. These 2 principals and their school improvement teams have studied their data, and they said, what else can we do? So a teacher-led, from the ground up, initiatives were born, and tonight you're going to hear about Power Hour and Smart Lunch. And the interesting thing, a lot of time and research went into this decision-making process. It wasn't a very quick decision, so they thoroughly studied the research, visited places where these practices were successful, and now they're in place. And I'm happy to say both schools met or exceeded growth, and their performance composite improved last year. So we thank these leaders for using data to drive decision-making. So tonight you're going to hear from Mr. Brian Chandler at West Buncombe Elementary School, and then Ms. Meg Turner at Owen High School. Mr. Chandler?
Good evening. Great things are happening at West Buncombe Elementary School. I want to talk to you tonight just a little bit about our 2-year journey with PLCs, or Professional Learning Communities, at our school. We've made great progress. In fact, I'm going to show you some data in just a minute that proves that. And so I'm a very blessed man to get to be the principal of such a fine school with such outstanding teachers and assistants and bus drivers and cafeteria. It takes us all to get the results that we have received in the past few years. We've had great success. Like I said, West Buncombe has a laser-like focus on standards-based teaching, and we are monitoring individual student progress. Focus on standards. When you walk in the door to West Buncombe Elementary School, you'll see right beside the office is a huge bulletin board, and it tells you exactly what each grade level is teaching that day. We're so focused on the standards there that I told the teachers, I said, I want the kids to think that you are obnoxious with standards. That when you say, today we're going to learn the main idea in detail, they'll say, again? And so we are so standard focused at West Buncombe. Outside of each classroom door is the standards for the day. Inside on the board is the standards for the day. When they start a lesson, they say, today, just as in this green one here, we can identify words and phrases in a text that relate to our senses and feelings. We track or monitor individual student data. This is our data wall at West Buncombe, and you see the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Each little card up here is a student at West Buncombe Elementary School. And I have principal data meetings every 30 days, and I sit with my grade level teachers, my reading specialist, my AIG specialist, my counselors, everyone involved with that kid's life, and I say, tell me where this kid is now. What reading level are they? How much have they grown? What did they score on their last math common assessment? And we talk about it as a team. Well, if they didn't grow, what are we doing about it? And so we don't let any kid slip through the crack at West Buncombe. We track and monitor each one and make sure that they have success. Let's travel back in time to 2012. And in July of 2012, when I took over the ranks as principal at West Buncombe Elementary School, we were 17th out of 23 schools in Buncombe County in composite score. We had just been identified as a focus school. And what a focus school, you would think a focus school, that sounds pretty good. We're a focus school, we're focused. No, it's not a good thing. And in fact, it is that our gap between our highest scoring subgroup and our lowest scoring subgroup is greater than the state average. So this is where we were in July of 2012. So we did some things. We had staff development on learning by doing by the Dufours. I led a book talk with our entire staff, and we learned the basics of becoming a professional learning community. We set up our data wall for the first time that we watched and monitored individual kids to see why are they not growing, and ask those tough questions about why is this kid, he was a C reader when we started in September, now it's October, he's still a C reader. Then it becomes December and you say, why is he still a C reader? What can we do to help this individual kid? It was the second year of the literacy lab, a model classroom. Now, Miss Carmen Murray was the principal before I came there, and in fact, I had the privilege of working with her as her assistant principal for 3 years. And she had this wonderful idea of having a literacy lab. And you see the lady in the picture, that is Miss Lorraine Griffith, and she is an exceptional teacher. She is my reading specialist at West Buncombe. And what she did, we knew the Common Core was coming. And so she modeled a 45 to 50-minute teacher-directed reading lesson every day, once a week, for each of my teachers at West Buncombe. It was professional development on steroids. They got to see it, they got to watch it, and then they went back and practiced. They did this for 2 years. We also looked at data. We looked at schools that were doing well. And Dana Elementary School, just across the line in Henderson County, if one thing you'll find out about me if you get to know me very well is I am super competitive. I cannot stand to be last or to lose. And so we looked at scores. And here's a school that is basically the same size as ours, except their free and reduced lunch numbers are higher than ours, and they are smoking us in test scores. 80% free and reduced lunch, a little bit higher than that, and they were at 80 and 90% on their achievement on end of grade. So I called her up, said, can I come and see what you're doing? She said, come on. I visited her 3 times that year. I took my entire staff there. We watched several times, and we stole their ideas. We increased the number of complex texts in each classroom. And then it came to the summer of 2013. You know, we started off at 17th in Buncombe County out of 23 with composite score. We went to 7th in 1 year. Summer of 2013, we said, what else can we do? We designed our own remediation enrichment block called the Power Hour. It's called I'm Time at Dana Elementary School. She said, make it your own. It has to be your own. And if I have principals out here who are trying this, you got to make it your own. Don't steal the Power Hour from me. It's got to be your own. But basically, when I taught 3rd and 4th grade at North Buncombe Elementary School, and every classroom teacher that's in here or you know of, when you've planned this wonderful reading lesson and you're getting ready to teach this great lesson, you'll hear something like a knock at your door. Can I have, it'll be your ESL teacher, can I have so-and-so and so-and-so to come? And they miss your reading lesson. You plan this great math lesson. It's your special ed teacher. Can I have so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so? And they miss your math lesson. Your social studies lesson, it's your AIG teacher. Can I have your so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so? And they miss your social studies lesson. Well, what Power Hour is designed to do is at West Buncombe Elementary at 8 o'clock in the morning is the 1st grade Power Hour. So every 1st grade special ed student goes to my 2 special ed teachers. Every ESL student in 1st grade goes to my ESL teachers. Every AIG student in first grade goes to the AIG teacher. Every struggling reader goes to my 3 reading specialists. And then the rest of the kids are in the classroom with the teachers, and they plan together and look at the data. And for 1 hour, we have intense reading instruction. And then that's the last time those kids are pulled out of the core instruction of the regular classroom teacher. It's called the Power Hour. Here's some pictures. Look at the work this kid is having to do. He is just straining. I observed this class last Tuesday. Then the next thing that we did was we restructured our literacy block. A new literacy block, 90 minutes of intense, uninterrupted instruction. So they're no longer pulled out. You no longer get the knock on the door and say, hey, I need so-and-so and so-and-so. They're in your class for your lesson. So it's 90 minutes. It's a specially designed lesson plan that fits everything that the balanced literacy of Buncombe County has to offer. Our teachers work really hard planning 6-week lessons. We stay in one text all week, and we have 6 exemplar texts. And I could go into a lot of details, but they only gave me 10 minutes to talk about this, and I can't tell you all the great things that we are doing there in 10 minutes. Some more pictures of our wonderful literacy block. We also have an informational block. That's the time we teach science and social studies. This is our science lab at West Buncombe Elementary School. So for 45 minutes every day, uninterrupted, our kids get science instruction or social studies instruction. Our mathematics block is 90 minutes a day, uninterrupted. They're no longer pulled out because they're pulled out during their power hour. We use the math investigations program, and that is our base program, and we use common assessments every day to check out, is this kid got this? Do they know it? Do we need to go on? What do we need to do? It's really important. We also write in journals after every class, every lesson our students are writing. They have a math journal, they have a science journal, they have a social studies journal, they have a literacy block journal, and they write throughout the curriculum all day. One great thing that helped us have great success was we used our math coach, our county math coach. She came and we did math diving standards every third Wednesday of each month. And so our teachers dove into the standards, because you can't score well if you don't know what's on the test and what standards you're supposed to teach. We had this major schedule change. The schedule was created to support the changes that we made in our instruction. We changed the literacy block, we changed the information block, we changed the power hour, and we changed the math block. But the schedule holds it all together. So it was set to create large chunks of uninterrupted time for our teachers to teach. Each grade level has a 50-minute planning time each day, and we have those 4 blocks that I've talked to you about: power hour, literacy block, nonfiction block, and a mathematics block. And then half-day planning sessions each 6 weeks for our teachers. It caused me, as the principal, to have a different approach to being a principal. I have to look at the standards. I have to ask the tough questions. I have to have a principal data meeting every 30 days with those teachers and all the specialists to determine what kid is doing what, where do they need help, and how can we help them. I use data in every meeting that I go to. We use reading 3D in M-class. I have to be a highly visible principal. I'm in every classroom every day, 2 and 3 times a day. And I have to follow through on my initiatives. If I say they need to have a standard, like this one right here, this is for some writing that's right outside of a fourth grade classroom. They have to have a standard there that tells what standard that writing meets. And so it's my job to go and say, hey, you've got this up here, what standard did it meet? My journals are important. I had a stack of them that I was going to bring, but it was too big for you all to see in 10 minutes. October 2014, or November, which is now, where are we? What did we do in 2 years? You know, we started out at 17th. You know I'm competitive. West Buncome's composite rank is now 4th in Buncombe County schools, and we're going for number 1. We're one of the 2 schools in Buncombe County schools to meet all of our AMO targets and gain high growth status. That was Pisgah Elementary and West Buncombe Elementary School. And we received the high growth index of 5, and we had to do this research ourselves, only 8.6 of the schools in North Carolina received this highest index. So to me, that looks like I'm better than 91.4% of all the other schools in the state. So that is where we're at West Buncombe. I'm very proud of my school, and we're gunning for number 1, so be ready.
Thank you.
Move over, Brian. That was supposed to be funny. Commentary. Yep, move forward, yep.
He's right.
Did Brian leave? I was going to crack on Brian, but if he's not in the room, I'm not sure I can do that.
Yeah, he just changed
Oh, he
seats.
changed seats. He is over there. Brian, this is a Prezi. If you want help with it, you'll have to call our media center, because I can't do it, but I went to the media center and they helped me with my PowerPoint to turn it into a big fancy Prezi. Smart Lunch is not just about academic achievement, but it's a lot about school culture. And I believe that one of the things that helps us turn student achievement upwards is you create school culture that supports students along the way. So when we talk about this, that school culture piece, I believe, is directly tied to student success. I also want to say that Sharon Verdu is here. She's going to get the mic in just a second. Sharon is an award-winning, recognized state teacher in the career and technical education area. She teaches health occupations, and she currently is on the Governor's Council for Governor's Teachers Network. Is there a handheld mic that I could use? Thanks. How's that? That's better. I move around way too much for that. So we're glad to have Sharon here. Sharon was a really important part of the team that did the research related to our decision to go with Smart Lunch. When I first came to Owen, the first year that I was there, it was very apparent that our biggest issue was time. Our teachers and our students did not feel like we had time to do the things that we needed to do to help students. So we spent most of the second year that I was at Owen trying to figure out how to address this issue of time. And there are a lot of limitations and a lot of barriers around time and what you are and aren't allowed to do. And we had to figure out how to solve this problem in some way. And Smart Lunch was not a creation of ours. We, like Brian, went and borrowed it from somebody else. Madison High School and Mountain Heritage High School were the 2 high schools that were the closest to us that were using it. So Sharon and a group of teachers and administrators and support people went to Madison High School and spent time there during their Smart Lunch, brought back some information. We did, as Brian said, we tweaked it and made it ours. Smart Lunch stands for Students Maximizing Achievement, relationships, and time. And those achievement, relationships, and time are really important components. We know in schools today there has to be a tiered level of support because not all students need the same thing. Most of our students, we can meet their needs through whole school primary level of prevention, and Smart Lunches fall sort of in that category because it's a school-wide effort that affects all students. Then you also know that you have a smaller percentage of your students that need secondary prevention, and those might be specialized services for students that have at-risk behavior or present some challenges in the classroom. Mini-Mester, which is part of the graduation initiative effort, is a part of sort of a secondary prevention effort. And then we also use something at Owen called green folders that I won't get into now for a portion of our students. And then you have a very small percentage of students that need tertiary or yet another layer of support to help them, and a couple of examples of those would be special education or perhaps something like day treatment to help those students get on track and do what they need to do academically. But tonight we're talking about this large group, all students, and sort of primary support. Most high schools in a block schedule take third period and they chunk out 20 or 25 minutes and students go to class, some go to lunch, then you go to lunch, and then you go to class before lunch and after lunch, then some go to lunch last, and you take a longer chunk of time in the middle of the day and split it basically. You have 3 or 4 lunches and you have 1 period and it's sort of chunked up. We had given kids a long class change time, so we took time from other places and we created this hour-long lunch in the middle of our day. So students go to 2 classes at Owen, then there's this really nice hour-long smart lunch, and then they go to 2 more classes before they go home at the end of the day. We divide smart lunch into A and B, and that's related to some stuff that Sharon will talk about in a second in terms of how we offer the tutoring and the staff supervision, and then time for staff to do some other things. Our kids eat all over the place. They eat in the cafeteria, they eat outside on the patio. This year we open the track for them a couple days a week. They eat in the hallways, they eat in the commons area, they eat in the classrooms, they eat in the media center, and there are pictures of them, and it's kind of funky when you walk around because high schools usually don't look that loose, and it makes lots of people nervous. But there are teachers doing supervision in all of those areas, and there are certain areas where food can be. You're not supposed to take food into the gym, for example, but both gyms are open for students to go in there and get exercise and play and have fun in the gym. You will notice in the small print we do that for high school students. Students they are not permitted to leave campus for lunch. You can imagine in Swannanoa if 800 kids tried to leave our building and go someplace and eat lunch and get back, would not happen. They love to try to figure out, what the rules are and exactly what the loopholes are, but we keep the small print pretty tight for them. And I've already mentioned the other piece about students taking food into the cafeteria. Sharon has been a true teacher leader in our building. That's another really important component of our school at Owen High School, is that teachers play a really important role in making decisions and advising us, and it's really an honor to work with Sharon and a lot of other people at Owen that are incredible people. She's going to share some more details for you next.
So when we visited Madison High School, we were there about 30 minutes, and their assistant principal that went with us, we had an opportunity to go in and look at how they had everything set up, and actually during their smart lunch time, we were walking around visiting different areas. And so I ran into our assistant principal as he was walking around again, and I said, "Can we go back and start this tomorrow?" And he started laughing, and he said, "What made you decide that?" And really, what had happened is I ran into a student that was in a classroom, and he was preparing for a competition with one of the clubs. And so I walked over to see what he was doing, and I said, "So you really like Smart Lunch?" And he said, "Well, I couldn't be doing this if we didn't have it." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "I ride a bus an hour and 15 minutes to get home in the afternoon, so I can't stay at school and do this. But I can be part of this club by being in Smart Lunch, by having this period of time. I can participate and I can do what students normally do after school with the club." So that really sort of sold me. So to explain how our schedule looks, so you'll get an idea of how supervision goes and what students are doing. Teachers have 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week for lunch. and then we do duty 2 times a week for 30 minutes. And I'll go back, I'll give you a better idea. I'll talk about what my week looks like in just a minute. We tutor for 30 minutes 2 times a week. We can do clubs that are optional 1 time a week. We rotate by departments so that the students can get help in all of the subjects. And so they have enrichment, remediation, or they can do missing work depending on what day it falls on and what they have to go to. And then the teachers are involved in 60 minutes of professional learning communities during the week. So for instance, my week looks like on Mondays it's enrichment and clubs for me for an hour so students can come to my classroom or to my area in CTE, and there's different areas that are designated for Monday for enrichment and clubs. And I usually eat lunch during that time. If students come in, I'm eating when they're in there. They can bring their lunch and eat, and that's what most teachers do. On Tuesdays, I can do lunch in the Part A Smart Lunch, and then I do duty, and so on Tuesdays I rove, which means that I just walk through the building and I go into different places and I'm visiting with students and I'm looking around and I'm going in the spots that we might be a little bit concerned about, like in the stairwells, or walking around in different places where we just need to sort of keep an extra eye on students. And some teachers are doing, other teachers are doing different things at that time. On Wednesdays is my department's PLC time. And so we're meeting either with individual teachers or we're meeting together as a department. On Thursday, I have lunch during A, and then I actually have a duty in an area. I'm in the commons area, and that's a large area where students can come and sit, and so that's for 30 minutes. And then on Fridays, I have tutoring. And so any students that need to come into my classroom to have things explained, make up tests, make up extra time, work on things, they can come and work in there even if they're not behind. So that's sort of what my week looks like. I'm not going to read this to you, but these are our expectations for the students under tutoring, enrichment, and privileges. I will say that if a student has below a 77 as an average, we require that they come in and work on things. And so they may be missing a test, or they may need to come back in and make something up or work on something to improve their grade. Also, we allow students to use their electronic devices, their phones, during smart lunchtime. And that's really, in my opinion, been a huge help, because before this came along, I seem to have more incidences with kids having cell phones out in the classroom. I think now one of the reasons that I don't see that is their phones have died by then, because during smart lunch they use it the whole time. But we just don't have the problems. The kids come in with a different attitude. They seem like they've had sort of a rest break. So it's really worked out well with that. And so every day we're reaching students, we're connecting to our students. Students are completing assignments, getting things done that they need help with. And they're developing relationships with the teachers because they're in our classroom more than they have been before. And it's during a time that they don't feel rushed. They don't have anywhere else they have to go necessarily. And so students are maximizing achievement, relationships, and time. And so this student...
I like Smart Lunch because there's plenty of time to talk to teachers, we have time to eat, we have time to do extra homework, and it's kind of a nice break during the day between classes.
So this is Tiffany James. She's one of our seniors, so this is her second year, obviously. And she really has been a supporter of Smart Lunch also. A lot of the students that are juniors and seniors said, why didn't we start this in 9th grade? And it's also important for us as teachers, because you can see from these pictures we're able to collaborate, we connect with our students, we communicate with our colleagues, we create learning teams, and we're championing success for our students. It's really great because we've been able to have a lot more connections with each other. I am on the technology literacy team at school, and so we learn a particular tech tool. And so during our PLC time, we've tried to have everybody from each department represented on that team, so we can actually go in and teach a little bit of something about a tech tool also. So it's just, there's a lot of ways that we can utilize this time as a PLC time.
There are some things that I didn't include up there that I want to go ahead and mention real quickly because I'll forget if I start talking about what's up there. But Mrs. Swanger already mentioned that this past year our school met expected growth, which we did not the year before when we did not have Smart Lunch. So that was a really nice piece of acknowledgement and helping teachers and students feel like we're seeing some ground. We also raised our composite score by about 5 percentage points, which we're really pleased to see as well. There are a number of data points. Some we feel like can be directly related to Smart Lunch, and some maybe not directly, but they're sort of those school culture issues that we talk about. And really what we want to do is create a less rushed day for students that they enjoy more as they're at Owen every day. But those are some stats up there the year before Smart Lunch, and then the first year in the rollout. We're obviously watching this data and keeping up with some other things that we want to look at as well. But we are super pleased with what's happening right now. Whenever we try to innovate, do something different, try to be creative, try to think out of the box, you run into unanticipated problems and you run into challenges. And one of the things that I love to do is problem solve. And as a high school principal, there's lots of opportunity every day to problem solve. And our teachers, fortunately, are helping us with sort of looking at what we're doing with Smart Lunch and how do we need to tweak it. But some things that we've had to deal with, as Mrs. Verdu mentioned, if you have a 77 or lower, Smart Lunch is required. It's not optional any longer. So how do we deal with students who don't show up then, and then is it a disciplinary situation? It basically is Smart Lunch. If it's required for you, it's just like class, and you're expected to be there, and there is discipline follow-up. But we have to deal with kids who don't go. A little bit of a mind shift for the teachers. They have had bus duty in the past at Owen, and that's been it. So for us to talk about teachers doing duty, that's a really ugly 4-letter word for teachers, and they've been wonderful and cooperative and helpful with that. Cleanliness from time to time. We had some pancake smear the other day that I got pretty upset about, but we really help the students understand it's their responsibility. If they want that privilege of having food all over the place, they have got to clean up after themselves. So more privilege equals more responsibility, hopefully equals student cooperation. Space limitations, where do you want 800 kids to be? Our building we don't feel like is that big, and so we have to figure out how do you manage those people, and part of the reason we opened the track this year, let kids get outside and get some air. And really the whole thing around roadblocks and barriers is changing paradigms. We want students to be successful, and we know that we don't get the ones in particular that we need before 8 o'clock or after 3 o'clock. So how do we help the mindset of students and families and teachers understand that we have to do our business between 8 and 3, and how do we make changes accordingly? So those changes have been helpful. What's next? We have to continue to evaluate it, look at the data, and see how we need to tweak what's happened at Owen to increase student success. So we're happy with Smart Lunch. It's been, I want to acknowledge Darren Chaplin. Darren was an assistant principal at Owen. He's now an assistant principal at Irwin, and Darren provided a lot of the major leadership around the development of Smart Lunch and the implementation at Owen. And that's been great, and it's been good too to share some of these ideas with colleagues and see them tweak it and kind of make it their own as well. So that's it. I made copies of you all. You never know about technology and what's going to crash on you. So I have copies of the Prezi presentation. Brian, I'll give one to you as well if you'd like it. And I really appreciate the opportunity to have time to talk about Smart Lunch at Owen High School. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I add something to that and maybe ask Ms. Turner a question?
Yeah, if anybody has any comments or questions, I'm sorry.
Going to recognize Mr. Bryant.
It's
not you. I'm not going to let you speak tonight.
He's my friend. He's recognizing his friend.
I said he was my friend.
I had the opportunity earlier this week to go to Irwin High School, and Mr. Chaplin is there, and I know that Dr. Brown has implemented that. And I happened to get there at Smart Lunch, and I had heard about it. Had heard some faculty members at some football games talking about it and talking about how well it was going and how well it was perceived. And what I saw, here's what it seemed to me to be. I worked for 20 years on college campuses, and a couple of places I worked had days during the week, 3 days a week or 2 days a week, during that lunch block for an hour, hour and a half, where there were no classes. But the students were still engaged with each other and with faculty in a lot of different ways. Some were in the cafeteria eating lunch, some were doing group things, some were in quads at the library. And that's what I felt this week when I was on the campus at Irwin and Dr. Brown took me around to Smart Lunch. And Ms. Turner, I would be curious to know if you have the same thing. With about 10 minutes left, Dr. Brown said to me, he said, you watch. He said, the phenomena that's come out of this is with about 5 minutes before the bell's going to ring, and if you've been spending any time in high schools, I'd never seen this before, but with 5 minutes left, he said, you're going to see our students start walking towards their next class. And I said, yes, sure. Sure enough, with about 5 minutes left, they had done the things they needed to do. They'd had lunch, they'd socialized, they'd worked on their project, whatever it was they were doing, and all the students are moving towards their next class. It was very mature, I guess, for lack of a better term. It was very grown up. It was very businesslike. It was not chaotic, and nobody was telling them to do it. Do you have the same thing at Owen? I just thought that was fascinating, and in fact, I called Dr. Baldwin, and I don't want to muddy the water, but my question to him was, would this conceptually be something that would be effective at the middle school level? And I'm not trying to muddy the water, but that was my thought the day that I was there, is how would that work at a different level? So I appreciate the presentation, and I know where it went from and where it went to with Dr. Brown, who's in the audience, but it was really informative and interesting for me this week.
Good. Ms. Franklin, do you have anything you want to say?
I don't have anything
All
right now, Mr.
Okay.
I'm speechless.
Well, I'm speechless. I'm speechless also because we have no one signed up for public comment. Are you sure there's nobody out there that wants to say they're glad I'm leaving or anything like that? So, all right.
To do some volunteer work at our school. And Dr. Baldwin, I think you got to see it. What an amazing transformation has been done at the front entrance of Buncombe Middle School with the painting inside, the painting outside, trying to take care of our jet area, which we're really, really proud of that jet, and making it look presentable. We've had the United Way organized this event, made sure we had materials. You know, everything's in the details. If 85 people show up on your campus and they don't have anything to do, then there's nothing that's going to get done. But they had all the materials, they had all the details worked out, the crews lined up, and what a phenomenal change it's made in our school. And I just wanted to say I publicly thank them for what they did, thank the United Way for organizing it, and I really want to thank our maintenance department for also just providing that support we needed. It couldn't have happened without our maintenance department. I just wanted to say thank you. And by the way, for the record, Buncombe Middle School is the best middle school.
It's Mr. Earwood with Buncombe Middle School. All right, let's take about a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and get started with our action items. I don't know if you noticed, but I usually don't use the gavel very much, but I had to use my gavel that they presented me, and I was here when Steve Sizemore obliterated the gavel.
Sorry.
He started using a hammer after that, didn't he?
All right, first on the action agenda, we have the adoption of the 2014-2015 budget. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
All right. Any questions before we vote? Questions or discussion? Anyone?
Well, I just wanted to, are you planning to do a presentation?
We have a very short
Okay.
Okay, you want to go ahead and do that first? Sure. Great. All right, go right ahead.
Chairman Reinhardt, members of the board, Superintendent Walker, we are pleased to present to you the 2014-15 budget for Buncombe County Schools for your review and approval. Most of the information that we're highlighting in this PowerPoint is in the documents that were provided in your board packet, as well as in the budget resource book. This first slide shows our 2014-15 budget by purpose. And as you can see, 71% of our budget supports instructional services. 17% of the total initial budget supports system-wide services, and that includes transportation, operational cost, and things like that. 6% of our budget is ancillary services, and basically that is the child nutrition program. 2% of the budget is non-program charges, and then 4% is for major capital projects. The next slide shows our budget by object. And as you can see, the biggest percent, which is 60, is salaries for all of our personnel. And 20% of the budget is for fringe benefits. So basically 80% of our budget represents people. And the fringe benefits includes matching retirement, matching FICA, insurance premium, workers' compensation premium, and unemployment, just to make that clear. 7% of this budget represents contractual services, and this could be professional or technical services. Also, insurance premiums are paid out of this. 7% also represents the commodities, the majority of that being the purchased food in our child nutrition program. 5% of the budget is for capital outlay, and 1% represents other, which is intertransfer funds and things like that. Another way to review our budget is by the revenue sources. Again, 56% of our revenue is from the state public school fund allotments. The second largest stream of revenue is 21%, and that is our county appropriation. 6% of the total revenue is for federal grants. These are funded through the federal government. 7% is other local revenue, and that includes fines and forfeitures, interest earned, and that would be the paid meals in our child nutrition program. 4% represents appropriated fund balance, and 1% is just other state funds. That is lottery funding and things that we receive through the state that we can't record in other places. And Mr. Warren is going to discuss the next slides.
Just to point out something on this slide, whenever this is the total budget being represented here, whenever you take child nutrition out and the capital outlay funds out, our county appropriation, the red chunk, is actually 24%, around 24, 25%. So I just wanted to make that clear on that too. Looking at this slide, if you were to take this slide and look at it last year, the total overall budget is slightly smaller. The main, I think it's about $75,000 smaller. State public school fund increased because of the salaries and such. We'll get onto that in a little bit. Our local current expense fund increased because of the increase in county appropriation that we asked the county for in May. Federal grants has decreased because of the loss of the ARA funds, the stabilization funds that we knew were going to be expiring. The capital outlay fund is and child nutrition fund are pretty stable across the board from last year to this year. And then other specific revenue fund, which holds a lot of our grants and donations and such, is a little higher this year. So overall, we're about the same, but there have been some changes to the individual funds. So looking at some other changes, the retirement rate went up, as you can see there, as well as the health insurance annual premium. And these are state mandated premiums, or state mandated percentages. So FICA has never changed. It's still the same 7.65%, but just to let you know kind of where we're at. And that's about what the state had us with the planning allotment. That's pretty much what they told us it was going to be. It's a little different, but for the most part, we were able to plan on those. And all state employees received some type of salary increase with this budget. Speaking of the teacher raises, the raises went anywhere from 20.29% to 18.5%. If there was a teacher that did not receive a raise based on the new salary schedules, they were given a $1,000 annual bonus paid monthly. So there was a provision in the budget that every employee made more this year than last year. Instead, they did an overhaul of the state budget teacher schedule. So instead of the salary changing each year that somebody, as you go each year, they made it 6 tiers. So it's like 0 to 4, 5 to 9. Each time you move from one tier to the next is an increase. So that's how they kind of restructured it. Other salary increases, school-based administrators, which are principals and assistant principals, received an average of 2%, and classified and central office administrators received $500, prorated based on percent employment. So if somebody was 50% employed half-time, they would get $250.
Now we're going to talk about the state public school fund and the impact that all these changes had there. Overall, for Buncombe County schools, our state public school fund budget increased by 1.16%. The majority of that is attributable to salary and benefit increases. The impact of charter schools on our budget was a $1.95 million reduction. There were also cuts made to specific allotments. We lost $1.6 million in the teacher assistant allotment, 3% in central office administration, which was $38,888. Transportation was a 1% reduction. We lost $50,000 in our at-risk alternative learning allotment, and the digital learning funds that they allotted for the first time in 2013-14, they took away. So we lost $96,000 there. For local current expense fund, our county appropriation increased by 5.44% or $2.6 million. These funds are going to be used to offset the loss of the state funds for teacher assistants. We'll also use these funds to fund the salary increases for the locally funded people, as well as the increases in the benefit rates. We will use these funds for expanding and supporting our global initiatives, textbook replacement and adoptions, and also these funds will be used to offset the loss of the federal race to the top dollars. In our federal grants fund, we are losing $1.2 million due to the expiration of some grants. And as you can see, Race to the Top will be losing $853,000, School Improvement Grant $100,000, and Education Technology was $168,000. Some of the other federal grants decreased a little bit. Due to how the federal grants are submitted and awarded, it is difficult to pinpoint actual amounts. When we have to basically submit that information to the state in April and May, and so it's not exactly known how much carryover we're going to have in all those grants. So as the carryovers come in, then the federal grants will change. In the special revenue fund, we did get an increase of about 2.39%, and that was basically due to 2 grants that were awarded to Buncombe County schools, and both of these have been discussed at our previous board meetings. PRC 371, which is the class grant, which is going to be used to hire more counselors to help support safe school initiatives. And then we also got Education Workforce Innovative Program Grant that Kay McLeod talked about before she left here. So that will help support science. And that's the end of our presentation. Basically, what we did is we just took information from your budget resource document book and just highlighted that. All this information you do have at hand, so, and it was on in the board packet.
Okay. Board members, any questions or comments?
This information is really helpful, and the detail that it's in is amazing. Tell us a little bit about the fund balance, how we finished the year, if you know already, and there's a percentage of it or part of it that's being used this year.
Okay. Preliminary figures show that we had about $6.8 million remaining in fund balance as of June 30th, 2014. This is unrestricted fund balance and is not part of the amount that we set aside for the stabilization. Let me find how much we're going to appropriate. Go ahead, Roger.
As of the current audit as of June 30, 2014, in the local current expense fund, we had appropriated about $4.3 million last year. Through cost-saving measures and being trying to do the best we can, we spent $1.5 million is what the preliminary figures are now. The middle of November we'll have, middle of this month, next couple of weeks we'll have final figures, but that's what it looks like last year, is that we spent about $1.5 million. This year we're appropriating 5.9 to begin the year, and we hope to save at least the same amount this year as we did last year. If you remember, whenever we did the long-range plan, started a couple years ago, at the end of this year it showed we were going to be completely out. But through cost-saving measures and being frugal with the money, we are having the best bang for our buck all the way through, using the federal edu jobs and the Race to the Top funds as best we can, and using the flexibility that the state has given us to use. That's what we're trying to do to use as little fund balance as possible. So that's where we're looking right now.
Anyone else have a question, comment?
I wanted to ask about PRC 062, instructional supplies. So we're up this year. We went down, we were at 1.1 million last year, and it's increased to 1.6 this year.
Do you have the page number at the bottom?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Page 2-74. I know 3 years ago we were at 1.9 million for this category, so we're still below at 1.6, but it's better than last year, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, the supplies and materials and textbook funds have stayed relatively stable from the state point of view. We've tried to supplement that with local funding as well as much as we can. If you remember, what part of our request to the county was $100,000 for textbooks.
Yes.
So that's taken into account in there as well. So
the increase is really from the state then, because it looks like the county funding actually declined. The local current expense fund is at $937,000. Last year it was at 1.1 million. Is that correct?
Yeah, in the past we have ABC transferred some of that money from the state funding. That's why it's not showing quite as high, is because we've used the flexibility to use that money for personnel. We have that option again this year as we see how the budget works out. So as of right now, this is how much is being budgeted in that account code, and we're going to monitor it as the year progresses.
Okay, but it does look like the local current expense fund that went down, that portion.
So how we did it this year, because we didn't have the budget out right as school started, we gave the schools 90% of what we gave them last year in local, just to see how the state budget was going to pan out by the end of in the middle of August. So that is what you're seeing, is 90% roughly of what we gave them last year, just simply because the budget was not approved at the beginning of school. Actually, we gave them the money in the middle of July so that they could start getting the instructional supplies and materials in for school. So
Good.
that's what you're seeing.
Okay, yes, thank you.
So there may be some additional funds later on this year that might be available for, okay.
We didn't want them to have to wait until the state budget got approved.
Okay, yeah. Dr. Baldwin?
Let me just apply a little big picture context to this as well, because I know there's several principals, and I think all of them were principals when we hit our first budget crisis back in the 9-10 was really where we were hit initially so hard, and made a decision, locked arms as principals, when we looked at non-human resources, instructional supplies being one of those areas, and said, we're going to prioritize our people. And I'm proud to say this school system has done that. And as you heard, when we looked at projections, and the board saw these projections 3 years ago, you saw where we were going. And for us to have been able to maintain personnel, human resources in positions like we have, I think has been absolutely amazing. I think it's a tribute to the leadership out in our schools. I also want to recognize the efforts that have gone on in our finance department. This tag team here has been nothing less than outstanding in terms of looking at resources and, as Roger said, the most bang for the buck. And regarding instructional supplies, because this continues to come up, I think it's an oversight if we don't recognize somebody in an organization sitting right here tonight, and that's the Evelyn Charities. And I think we all, Tools for Schools. Bill, was this our fifth consecutive year of a combination of Clear Channel, all these organizations, Ingalls comes to the table. That's not even counting the efforts out in our community with networked churches, with all types of organizations that have come in specific to our schools and helped with instructional supplies. 1 million items, I know, for the fourth consecutive year. That's absolutely incredible, and those items have gone into our schools. So, you know, I don't want to lose that opportunity to recognize when we talk about instructional supplies how crucial our community, because that is something the community can step in and help. And I've never met a community member that's had any problem with stepping in that particular area and helping us. So I apologize.
That's good. I would just like to say that we certainly appreciate the county commissioners and how they were able to help us. You know, when the three budgets started rolling out, we were a little scared, to say the least, about what we were looking at initially. The county commissioners stepped up, helped us out in some areas that we really had some deep concerns. As you can see, an increase from the county commission. And I'd also like to say, you know, thanks to the legislators. You know, they, you know, everyone got a raise, and I realized that, you know, some raises were a lot smaller than others, but it was a step in the right direction, and I appreciate that. We also received some flexibility from the state, which really, you know, when you have a good staff, they can take that flexibility and really maximize the dollars, and we appreciate all the work that you guys did in maximizing those dollars. The state also gave us some special recurring funds for the Discovery Academy. I don't know how well that's known, but how much was that, Dr. Baldwin?
It was, if I'm not mistaken, about $310,000. So for the recurring, yeah.
Because of the special status of that school, and so we really appreciate the legislators, you know, doing that for us also. And you know, we'll certainly take any more funds anyone wants to give us, and we'll try to use it the best that we can. But I just want to make sure that that they get some credit for that. And you know, we did lose some position allotments. You know, some of our teachers' assistants have you know, have had to take some cuts, and here again the county stepped in and helped us out. Where, you know, one thing that this school system has done a really good job of over the last 3 or 4 years with the budget constraints is we've really been able to handle these cuts without having to lay people off, and that's that's huge. We've been able to handle those cuts through retirements and attrition and those sorts of things, and I think that's very important to note. So.
Yes, I just wanted to echo what you just said. I agree completely, and I'm so glad the commissioner stepped into that funding gap. They filled the funding gap for the teacher assistants. It's fantastic. I'm thinking, looking to the future, that we could possibly persuade the county commission with the argument for economic development to increase funding for our schools. You know, I've mentioned New Hanover County before, our twin sister school district, and they were able to get $67 million from their commissioners this year, and we were able to get $58 million. That it's a matter of priorities, and investment in education is an investment in economic development. But when you invest an excessive amount in human services, you get a zero return. And we do need to help people who cannot help themselves. I definitely agree with that. But the 21% increase that our county commissioners spent on human services, it was no match for the mere 2% increase for education. So I hope in the future that we can look at budgeting in the sense of economic development. We're investing in our future as a county. We're investing in our children and their future. That we can increase this amount that the county is spending on education, that the priorities can be set right. One thing we could look at too, maybe even for this year, is that fund balance that the county holds. They have the $50 million in their fund balance. It's nearly double what's required by state law to be kept in there. So instead of just sitting on that money, if we could persuade them to invest some of it in education, you know, again, that economic development argument, you know, that would probably bring a better return on their investment than the interest that they're getting on that fund balance. So those are just a few points I wanted to make.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Bryan.
A couple of things. I don't know New Hanover County, that it's a sister system of ours. I think it's, and I'm not sure we do a real good service to the public to compare just raw numbers without looking at what that means on paper. Where's that money going? I don't know that maybe 7 or 8 or 10 million of that dollar coming in from New Hanover County is going to a school building. I don't know. So unless, but I don't have it in front of me, so it's difficult to know whether there's a real apples to apples comparison or not. So I will say this, and then I have a question here. I did some of my own looking. In 2011-12, the county commissioners appropriated $49,238,000 to Buncombe County schools. In 12-13, $52,397,000. In 13-14, $53,915,000. And in this year's budget, I don't have it in front of me, but 58 plus million. So it's been a steady, I didn't go back any further than that. I would imagine that it's continued to rise each year. But their support, while we would all like more, and maybe we can ask and put together some things to ask for some different things and more, they have been very supportive. My question, though, in terms of this year's budget, on page 248, and I'm hoping you can help me understand. I think the public needs to be aware of this. For year, I'll just read the last paragraph. For year 2014-15, the planning allotment was $7,613,000, and this is discussing instructional assistance. But after the budget was approved, our initial allotment came in at only $5,943,000, over $1.6 million decrease. My question is this: can you help us understand? I think I do, but it's my understanding that that planning allotment that is so important and critical going forward has been in some way changed or removed for budgets going forward. And can you talk about that in terms of, from a budget perspective, as we move forward after this budget's adopted, how that's going to impact your work? And because from what I've read and what I understand, it seems to me it's going to make your job very, very difficult after the first of the year.
What they're saying is they're not going to put any money in the budget for growth. So it would be hard for us to plan ahead. And if the state doesn't provide the dollars for growth, then everybody's going to be fighting. Every entity that gets state money is going to be fighting for money for their budget. So we would have to fight to get money in our budget for growth in our school district.
So you're not going to start as for at least 8 years that I'm aware of, and probably longer from that starting point and factoring in growth. And when you talk about growth, you're talking about growth of
Right,
more
student
students,
growth.
student
That's
growth
correct.
as it factors in across
Right.
the state. So that's no longer going to be part of.
That's being proposed.
Okay. I find that.
I find it amazing. I don't know how they expect you to plan.
Yeah. How do you plan from your perspective? How do you plan going forward?
It is a challenge. It will be a challenge. Everybody will be fighting for the money. Every state entity that gets money.
Okay. Thank you. I had some other questions, but you've answered most of them in your PowerPoint from the beginning.
Baldwin?
Yes, again, going back to the instructional supply funding, the classroom materials, the textbooks, at around $1.1 million out of a $244 million budget. That's just a really tiny amount, and it seems so important and crucial. We just hear from so many people that are concerned that our children don't have textbooks and that there may just be a classroom set. And it's in our board policy that we will supply textbooks for children. I really think that we could still, go beyond this and, ask for that money from the commission. Use our fund balance because, again, we have the fund balance, the commissioners as well, that we can reach our hand into basically if we need more money. I really don't feel like we should be sitting on, a big pool of money when our classrooms are basically starving. I won't be able to vote for this budget because of that. I feel like we didn't ask for enough money for this.
Mr. Place?
This is an insignificant part of our budget, but do we have any more flexibility with lottery funds than we've had before?
No, not at this time.
No. And the lottery funds we receive, is it stayed about the same, or has it gone up? Does it go down? I know that's something we probably really can't count on drastically, but
It stayed about the same.
Okay.
But it is soft money. I mean,
You never know.
never know.
Just real quick about the fund balance. I mean, if our fund balance is roughly 6.8 million, and we're using roughly 5 million, what are we going to do next year? It's not a reoccurring thing, so that's what's scary about using your fund balance. If we put it all in right now, then we have a bigger gap next year.
Well, and the hope is that, as they stated, that we would only use $1.5 million as we did last year of the fund balance in the end.
Dr. Baldwin?
One thing, and I hate to bring this up, but it's always in the back of my mind. There has been continued talk that in January and February, depending upon the revenues of the state, we may be asked, and this is nothing unusual for us. I think 4 out of the past 6 years, we have had to send a reversion back. So if we opt to dip into our fund balance now, we may find ourselves in a very difficult situation come January and February if we receive a call from Raleigh requesting funds to be reverted. And again, that is not unusual, and we're still waiting to hear, I guess, the results on the final revenue. Is that correct? Both Roger, you and Deborah have heard.
Yeah, and I wanted to clarify what I was saying about fund balance. So we appropriated last year about 4.3 and we spent 1.5. I expect that gap to be roughly the same. Not that we'll spend 1.5, but the saving gap will be the same. So it will be more. It will be, 1.6 million more roughly if the gap stays the same.
Yeah. And I think perhaps another issue that we could address is this bonus pay for school-based administrators. We're spending about $600,000 a year for bonuses for extra duty pay that has no accountability whatsoever attached to it. Automatic monthly bonus payments going to principals and assistant principals, for attending extracurricular events. The teachers don't get extra duty bonus pay, and this even was, it's been occurring at this level since 2006. And the board's never even talked about it or addressed it. Even when teacher salaries were frozen, the bonuses were still coming for the administrators. That's $600,000 we could put in the classroom for textbooks or, the instructional tools the teachers need to teach. That's another issue that I cannot support in this budget.
Mr. Chairman, I would, in addressing that, this board, Ms. Baldwin, you've brought it up for most of 4 years on this board. And in one way or another, this board has discussed that and has very clearly expressed that that expense is an investment, it's a recruiting tool, it's a retention tool for us to keep the best and the brightest administrators that we have here in Buncombe County Schools and to keep them in our system. Teachers are not required to be that I'm aware of, at football games to administer what I see at a lot of our high school football games is a $7 a night babysitting job that parents drop their kids off with $7 to buy a ticket, and they expect the folks that are there to be in charge of them and to make sure that everybody's safe. That's a tremendous responsibility that falls in the laps and on the shoulders of our principals, assistant principals, and athletic directors. And I'm not sure, quite frankly, we pay them enough for that when there's 5, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 people at those events on that night. And if you've ever witnessed something go wrong at one of those events and see those people in action, as I did at a football game at Irwin High School about 3 weeks ago, where a young man was, a student beside him thought they were being funny and they put something in the young man's ear. And to watch Dr. Brown and his staff, the SROs, and all the people that were there working that night handle that young man and take care of that young man and get him the medical attention he needed, and not have a panicked state and a problem arise, was well worth the time that they spent there that day from when school was out till probably 11 or 12 o'clock at night, when they're generally the last ones to leave. So I, for one, we've talked about it because you've brought it up. We may not have had an open dialogue and discussion and talked about it, but we've heard you, and this board has felt that that is a positive investment, and I, for one, will support this budget for a lot of reasons, but I would never support taking that away and eliminating that from our teachers, our principals and assistant principals.
Would you support bonus pay for, let's say, the band director who has to go to the band concert and direct
band director,
which he's not getting now?
The band director is, I think, receives a stipend, correct, Dr. Baldwin, for those types of, yeah. Is it enough? Probably not. Does the varsity tennis coach make enough? Probably not. Does the course director? Probably not. Could those things be looked at in conjunction with the county commissioners? Maybe. But they do receive a stipend for that effort and for that work. It's different to oversee the group that you're coaching and sponsoring versus overseeing an event like a football game or a basketball game. The easy part is generally the participants in the activity. That's the easy part. The hard part is the administration and all the things going on with parking and safety and security and those types of things, and that falls in the laps of our principals and assistant principals, and quite frankly, I think they earn every nickel they get.
And I think, what you're saying here, that to attract and retain principals, they do get the supplement, which I understand is what is the tool for that, to retain and recruit. This bonus is in addition to that supplement. If I could put it this way, in the real world, let's say, or in a private sector situation, rather, a salaried employee is expected to go above and beyond the 40 hours a week. To me, this extra duty that they perform is really part of their salary duty. And I feel like we've never had this discussion with the county commissioners. In fact, we haven't even met with them in the 4 years that I've been on the board to discuss the budget. And I hope going forward in the future that the next, the board will try to meet with the commissioners to possibly, advocate for bonus pay for the teachers who are collecting the tickets at the ball game or directing traffic.
Those folks that work at those ball games collecting tickets, they're paid. They're not working for free.
Well,
Certainly,
maybe was not a
we
good
certainly
example,
aren't going
but
to
there are
agree
other-
on this one.
other
We can see
examples.
that, but I think it's important to note, if you look at the total pay, for administrators, if you compare that with the state, I think you'll see that we're well within line with where the state is. So duly noted that we certainly don't agree on that one.
We'll just have to agree to disagree.
That's exactly right. So are there any other questions about this budget?
I have none, sir.
No, but I just want to explain that my no vote is because I feel the budget's not sufficient for the classroom.
Duly noted. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you
Thank
for all the
you.
information. Good job. Next on the action agenda, we have the open session minutes from October 2nd, 2014. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
All right. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, I was wondering, I'd like to, under the award for Buncombe County Commissioners as Commissioners of the Year Award, I was wondering about making correction to the minutes.
Okay, if you'd like to make a motion to change that.
I'd like to make a motion to change the correction to the minutes to reflect Ms. Churchill voiced her grave concerns regarding Ms. Baldwin's advocacy for vouchers and opportunity scholarships and her disregard for public schools.
Is there a second to make that change?
Second.
Okay.
That the same thing that's in there already, or did you change the charter schools to opportunity scholarship?
The wording changed from charter schools to voucher and opportunity scholarships. What I said was advocacy for vouchers and opportunity scholarships.
All right, so we have a motion and a
I would-
second to make that change. Is there any discussion?
That was her opinion. I'd like to insert the word opinion because I have total
didn't
regard
say
for
it.
public schools. I don't ever disregard them.
I didn't say opinion in my, if we're taking minutes and we're saying what I said, I don't believe I said opinion in any of what I said. So
Okay.
I guess maybe it could be assumed that.
Any other questions or
I
discussion?
would ask that we delete that statement because the minutes are not a word-for-word interpretation. It's supposed to be a summary, and I feel like, that was very inappropriate for her to say that at the meeting anyway, because it was false.
Mr. Chairman, I respectfully ask that it is not deleted and written to reflect Ms. Churchill voiced her grave concerns regarding Ms. Baldwin's advocacy for vouchers and opportunity scholarships and her disregard for public schools.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to make that change to the minutes.
I have another point to amend the minutes with.
Well, if you'll wait, we'll take this one, and then we'll move on
Okay.
to the next one. So,
Mr. Chair, I'm going to abstain from these votes on the minutes. I was in Nashville with my son with hip surgery, and I was on the phone listening, but it was difficult to tell, so I'm just going to abstain from that vote because I wasn't here and not as clear on it, so I'll abstain from the votes on the minutes from the October 2nd meeting.
okay, not a problem. All in favor of Ms. Churchill's change, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. All right, Ms. Baldwin, you want to make another change?
To add to that, following that statement, Ms. Baldwin asked to rebut Ms. Churchill's accusations, but Chairman Reinhardt refused her request and called the question in order to end discussion. And that's what I submitted today to the board as a change to the minutes.
What time did you send that?
I sent this,
10:58 a.m.
9 hours ago.
Oh, okay.
And I had asked that we change Ms. Churchill's statement to Ms. Churchill voiced her opinion that Ms. Baldwin campaigned for the
Right,
voucher
and
program.
we've already dealt with that.
Right.
Okay. So your motion is to change the minutes to reflect that I shut down any more comment?
That Ms. Baldwin asked to rebut Ms. Churchill's accusations, but Chairman Reinhardt refused her request and called the question to end discussion.
Okay.
And I included the video.
Okay,
if
so we have
anybody
that
wanted
as a
to watch.
motion. Is there a second? Okay, any other changes?
this is inaccurate in order to, if you're just going to put her false accusation in there and not the rest
Baldwin,
of
we
the state.
we just dealt with it. You made a motion, there was no second.
You can keep falsifying the minutes as you've done in the past. Do I need to make, are you asking me to make the motion? I'm confused. I thought you said it's already been made. I made the motion.
You made the motion, there was no second. So do you have another item that you want to change?
I had asked that we add the link to Mr. Gorsuch's presentation that was mentioned in the minutes. I just thought that would be helpful to the public.
Okay, would you like to make that in the form of a motion?
Yes, I move that we add the link to Mr. Gorsuch's presentation as mentioned in the minutes.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed?
Again, I'm abstaining just because I
Okay.
wasn't here.
All right, anything else for the minutes? So we've made those changes, so we will go back. Ms. Jackson, are you clear on those changes? Okay. Okay. All right, so with those changes, we had a motion and a second to the open session minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Again, abstaining from that particular one.
All right, next, we have the intermediate school revisions to the construction manager at-risk contract. Do we have a motion to approve these changes?
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
Any questions or discussion?
Could I ask a question of, I think this came from Mr. Fairley. It appears to, and it reads to me that, I mean, this makes a lot of sense to me, but this is strictly about cost saving. The explanation that you have seems to indicate that adding the time still gives us plenty of time and will create a model, not a model, but a system going forward where we're not going to achieve some or have some cost that we can avoid here. Is that accurate?
That is the intention of this. In studying the contractor's schedule with the architect, it became clear that there was some overtime costs necessary, some expedited deliveries of materials that have potentially long lead times. And the third thing is really because of the schedule, a few of the subcontractors' time would be crunched, and we might not get qualified or interested subcontractors because of the requirement to have that overtime. So that's the intention of this, to give a little bit more relief to the schedule. The final thing is that we really don't want to accept a school too early, because guess what? We have to pay the utility bills then. And we don't really have the staff to put in there that early. So basically the building would sit there. I think July 1st gives us plenty of time to move in. With this method of delivery, we're more assured that we're going to get the school on time. And it's my recommendation that we save some money by moving this contract completion date to July 1st as opposed to May 1st.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I just wanted to ask, because we had been told before that we would probably, not for sure, but get the guaranteed maximum price for this meeting to approve. Does this delay, the pushback of the date, is that, when will we get the guaranteed maximum price for the school construction itself?
We may get an early GMP in December, but that won't be the contractual. In January is when the guaranteed maximum price, after bidding, then we'll know what that price is.
Okay.
All right. All in favor of making these revisions to the contract, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next, we have the Inca Intermediate School adoption of the project-specific criteria for the school subcontractors. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any questions or discussion?
My concern, I think this is a good thing. This, of course, you're required to do this with the Construction Manager at Risk program. I don't feel like the no-bid Construction Manager at Risk process is desirable for taxpayer-funded projects.
Ms.
So
Baldwin,
I'm going to be
we have
voting
dealt with
no.
this.
I'm just letting you know why I'm voting no, because I feel like it would be an endorsement of the CM at Risk.
Duly noted. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Next, we have the award of contract for the wireless access point installation system-wide. Do I have a motion to approve this contract?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
I did have some questions. I don't know if Mr. Pace is available. There he is. Okay. At the September 26th board meeting, we approved the purchase of the AeroHive Wi-Fi access points for $400,000, basically $400,000 from CNIC. And now we're approving a contract for the installation of the devices by the same company, CNIC. I'm a little puzzled. I guess I had assumed we might be installing them ourselves. Why wasn't this in the initial contract, in the initial RFP, to bundle the installation along with the purchase of the devices?
Mrs. Baldwin, the purchase of the AeroHive access points was a one-time offer that Buncombe County Schools needed to act on quickly. That offer stemmed from the manufacturer of the AeroHive access points providing us special one-time pricing. It was always the intention that this would be a project, it's a major project, the scope of which dictates that we need to outsource the cabling and installation of these access points. And the goal is to get this work started and get it done by June 1st of this school year so that we have high-density wireless going into future years to support robust digital teaching and learning and all that goes with that.
Right. It just
And
seems
we did have 4 bidders on that on this project.
That is correct.
Yes.
Yeah, I noticed the RFP had been amended twice. What exactly is included in the installation?
Okay, so we have 1,043 access points to be installed. Currently in Buncombe County Schools, we have wireless coverage, and we have an access point in basically every other classroom.
Right.
And we have an access point in a gym, in a media center, in a cafeteria, but it's not high density. And across the state, school districts that have moved to robust digital teaching and learning, one-to-one initiatives, etc., have discovered that high density means one access point per classroom. And currently, we need a data drop, a network cable, run to each of the classrooms that does currently not have an access point in it. And so the installation includes those cable runs as well as the placement of these access points and testing, labeling, certifying their use.
Right. I noticed on the RFP it said that the mounting of these wireless routers, access points, is some situations there were some sticky situations where it would be difficult to mount it, but others are pretty straightforward. Is that right?
That is correct. So predominantly, classrooms in Buncombe County Schools do have a drop ceiling. There are a handful of locations, approximately a dozen, where there are some classrooms, a handful of classrooms that may have fixed ceiling. or partially fixed ceiling. In addition, there are some chorus rooms, some cafeterias, theaters, et cetera, that have fixed ceiling or partial fixed ceiling. So those locations may require a mount to the ceiling or a mount that is a pole that extends down.
Now, do you have any feeling as to why the other three bids were so high? I didn't know if it had anything to do with the fact that CNIC, was the supplier of the Arrow Hive. I mean, does it have something to do with the brand, the hive? That sort
No, I don't presume to know, what their situation is for all four vendors, but I'm pretty confident that it wouldn't have anything to do with the brand because the purchase was already over and done with. And so this project was solely and entirely a cabling and installation project. So the Arrow Hive access points were, previously purchased.
So if we went with a different brand, the process for installation is going to be pretty much the same.
That is correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just concerned. I did check with some other school districts and technology officers, and they thought it was kind of high for the 292.
And our technology officer is standing here today recommending this to us, and I think that's probably who we most need to interact with. We've got four, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've got four responsive bidders here, correct? And by law, we're required to accept the low bidder as long as they're all responsive. Is that correct?
Or you can reject all the bids. You don't have to take any of the bids, but you have four responsive bidders, and there was no problem in the bid process.
Thank you.
Let me just ask one more question. Do you think most of the installation cost, is that the cabling or is it the mounting of the wireless access points?
So there are a combination of factors at work here. Number one is the cabling. There are many feet involved in this. You also have the fact that we are dedicated to protecting the integrity of the instructional day. And so we have a situation here where the vendor is going to work at night and after hours. And so you have to take that into account. So, there's a lot of factors that go into this, but I can say that I believe that we got tremendous pricing on this, given all of those factors.
Now, we didn't
Dr. Baldwin,
we didn't
you have
get
a question,
the
Dr. Baldwin?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dr. Baldwin.
Mr. Pace, I don't want to undershadow the importance of the cost savings. I know you've approached the board over this a month ago. What was the actual, in your estimation, the cost savings by taking advantage of that one-time sales? Now, we're spending a lot of time about installation, but I don't want the public to miss the cost savings initially.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Baldwin. So, conservatively, based on normal type of market rates, I would say that the savings is in the realm of between $250,000 and $350,000. The savings off of MSRP is in the $600,000 range.
Wow. And on behalf of our students and staff, I want to thank this board for that decision. I have probably checked Ms. Jackson. That might actually have been a unanimous decision.
It was.
Board. Was
yeah,
it?
It was.
Outstanding. Thank you, Mr. Pace.
Without having the details of the bid, the quote, what is the cost per hour that we're paying the technicians?
So this project doesn't have a specific hourly rate associated with it. So the vendor may work 10-hour shifts, may work 2 8-hour shifts, and the completion date at this point, our objective is to get it completed by June 1st. The vendor may be interested in completing it by April 1st. So And I would just like to say that I want to thank the team in Technology Services that worked on this. There was 3.5 to 4 months of work that went into laying out and mapping and walking through all of our sites and putting the drawings together so that the vendors could see specifically where each and every access point, all 1,043, would be placed, would need to be placed. And I think that is something I want to recognize and thank them for, and I think that contributed to getting a good deal.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Now, on behalf of the taxpayer, I think that's a little high.
Thank you, Ms. Baldwin. You've had your opportunity to speak. So, all right, next on the, we have the consent agenda. Quite a few items left on the consent agenda, including a small change to policy 9040. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. There's also some supplemental budget information that's located on the website, including some of the summaries. The next board meeting, in which we will have the new board members sworn in, will be Monday, December the 1st at 6:30. Also, there is the North Carolina School Board Association Conference, which will be going on November 17th through the 19th in Greensboro. We appreciate everyone being here, and I'm going to use my gavel here to adjourn the meeting. Thanks, folks, for being here.